Welcome to Conversations with Friends. I'm Meredith. And most people that I know either walk to get in shape or they walk just to enjoy a beautiful day in the park or on the beach. I want to introduce you to not just an interesting man, but a man who is so committed to this whole feeling experience of peace. And he's actually a peace pilgrim. So he's been walking, not recently, but he has done many years of walking for peace in the world and to spread this beautiful message of peace, which I think you'll all agree that we need more than ever. And it seems as if it's slipping away sometimes, like where is peace? And he's gonna share a lot of his insights and his enlightened experiences. So I want you to meet Swami Sankarananda. He's also known as Peace Swami, right? Welcome. Good to see you, Swami.
Very good.
Can I call you Peace Swami?
Good to be with you.
People call you Peace Swami, right? Is that okay?
Oh, sometimes.
Oh, that's not your real name. Just Swami?
Sometimes.
Okay.
It's not about what I'm called. I just prefer that people know peace.
Peace.
Find the peace and live peacefully. This is really the mission that's being shared. So what they call me, I don't care.
That's nice. Okay.
Actually, I don't even want people to know me. I just want them to be.
I'm going to show them something just so, because what you're talking about, you live it. Here is a book. And I'm looking for his name and I do not see it. And I think it's the first time I've ever seen a book that had no author on it. So obviously that was intentional, wasn't it?
Well, there's a picture on the back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there is a lovely picture on the back. But I want to talk, of course, so, about your journey as a peace pilgrim. And that's not where it started, where your journey started, but maybe for people to understand this, because it's such a fascinating story. You were already on a spiritual journey and you had this idea, right? Was it a vision? Was it a feeling that you were going to walk for peace and walk for 3 years?
So honestly, where it started was with suffering or ashanti and not being at peace. That's where it started. For me, there was no peace. There was a lot of excitement, thrilling at points, but there was a deep desire, a very deep interest in peace. Although try as hard as I could not find it. There was and is in the heart a longing to be happy. And really, we can say peace and happiness are identical. They're in the same place. And I could not find that happiness. And I kept looking under rocks and lived a big life and could not find it anywhere. And finally, we came to a place of realizing that and realizing that I didn't know where happiness was or how to be happy. And that's what really started what we call spiritual path is there's an urge inside, and that's certainly what I experienced. There's something inside of us which expects to be happy, which expects peace, that urges us towards it. And yet my experience was that I could not find it. I even, in the excitement, I even forgot what I was looking for. And so we came to a place with a Great Depression that lasted a few years that helped me to reevaluate everything. And we understood somehow through grace that the goals weren't about some amount of money or some of this success or that success, that really what was being sought was happiness, and that it's simpler than what I had imagined. And so that took us to spiritual path.
You say us. Who was us? You and your spirit, yourself, your inner self.
Please forgive. I
It's
often,
okay.
and it'll happen again, I'll warn.
Yeah.
I confuse in speech often I and we.
Okay. That's
The
okay.
two words. I don't see a
Yeah.
difference between them.
Mm,
So
that's interesting.
it's
Let me ask you
interesting.
this.
Yeah.
It
Sorry?
sounds to me that you knew there was another way to live.
I
And
would
so
say,
you had tried this, you tried
yeah.
that, you tried the world of success. And
Yep.
I think I read that you like to accumulate a lot of things, you got into accumulating things. And so did you eventually just hit a brick wall, which is, I think, what happens to a lot of people, where it's just, there's not even some peace and happiness left. For a lot of people, there's enough to keep them going. They're not great. They might be depressed sometimes, might have bad days, but they still are they're okay. They accept that in life. Was yours so bad that you said, there's got to be another way?
I would say for each of us that there's something in us, not a thing, but a force, a factor. We can call it different names, super consciousness or the peace within, or a guru. The guru is inner, not outer, some guide, the conscience, different names for it. But there is this force within us that is urging us to follow the path of peace, the Shanti path. And the situation that we find ourselves in is what we're being guided towards, which is not, each of us have some experience with happiness. It's the truth. Each of us have some happiness in our lives. Yeah, everyone has some experience with happiness. But to be
moments of happiness.
But to be happy a few moments is not satisfactory. There's an urging towards a happiness that lasts forever, like the fairy tale, happily ever after. They lived happily ever after. And that from when we're children, we hear it inside and outside both. We hear from our own spirit self, as it were, that it's possible, and nothing else will do. And so we're always comparing our lived experience with this ideal of peace and happiness, whether we know it or not. Dissatisfaction and the need to find something is why do I need to get something? I need to get something because I'm not where I wish to be. Where do I wish to be? Well, I can say Shangri-La, but the reality is I wish to be happy.
People do wish to be happy. And yet, again, I think are people, and I think we're all like that at some point or another, are we all looking again in the wrong places for it? Because it's not permanent happiness. It has to, as you were saying, it has to start within. And so again, if you're looking for happiness, that, if I just get that great job, or, I just have the perfect family life, or the perfect this, go on some great vacations. It falls flat over and over again. So what awakens people? And tell me about how you got from those experiences to the next stage of your spiritual journey.
Sure. So we see in the different teachings, and Peace Pilgrim had come into my life, and some who join us for this talk might have heard of Peace Pilgrim before. And if not, I would encourage people to use Google Swami and look for Peace Pilgrim. She's quite inspiring. She had walked pilgrimage for 27 years, and she shares these universal teachings of the greats in the different traditions. But the situation we find ourselves in is that it's as if there are two of us. It's as if I am two selves. When we look at the sea inside of us, we have a voice in the head which tends to be incessant, And it always has a list. And it's always describing something else that we need to do in order to get what we want. And we have to live with it until we train it. But we don't know it needs to be trained.
Because I was just in a class a few weeks ago, and the teacher said, you need to get rid of your lists. If you have these lists and you keep going over your lists, just keep it in your head. And I walked out of the class and I said, you know what? I still need my list. I don't remember all the things I have to do. Well, but I know what you're saying. It's the continual thinking about the to-do things over and over again. And it's all about the superficial accomplishment, right?
Well, and it's indeed, and it is a voice in our head that we each are dealing with that speaks to us and tells us what we need to do. And so, but as long as it speaks to us from the place of a separate I and what I need and what I have to get from life, then we live life to get when we follow it. And this life of living to get is a life of suffering.
So it's the me life. It's all about me, right? So
it's all about me.
Getting rid of the ego?
But there is also within us a higher nature. So we can say the self-centered nature, the little s, self-centered nature is needy, greedy, and there's always something, and the list will go on forever. I don't mean the things we need to do in order to do our service in the world. I mean the things that I have to do in order to get that happiness, in order to get complete. I have to eat. And we deal with this factor that says, I need, I want, I, me, mine. I, me, mine was the last song that the Beatles recorded together. And and we live with this voice, and yet there is this still silent voice. We can call it the self-centered in the good of the whole, or the conscience, or the inner guru or inner teacher. And it guides us towards wholeness, completion, peace, happiness. The lower nature is looking to get, the higher nature is looking to give. And we see it in our lives. And it's part of the conundrum that we live in, which is, let's say that someone is doing something to us. They keep saying something, and they keep upsetting us, and they're getting it wrong. And we come to the conclusion that I just can't live around them. I can't be with them. I can't, that's it. I can't forgive them. They've done the unforgivable, and they can't be in my life anymore. We all have these experiences. And so we decide, okay, that's it. I'm not going to talk to them again. And yet there's something within us that says, let it go. When we see a piece of trash on the ground, there's something in us that urges us to pick it up. And at the same time, the voice in the head will say, I don't have time to do it. I might get something from it. So we live a life that's juxtaposed, and we go back and forth in this pleasure-seeking avoidance of pain. And it's not because we're stupid, not in that way. It's because the lower nature, our own lower nature, if it's not trained, if it's not made subservient to the higher nature, it's constantly in the plane of suffering. And so it leads us from one experience to the next, and no experience is ever fulfilling. We get happiness for a little bit. But the higher nature is wishing and asserting in order to use us for good, and in order to guide us to the peace and freedom which is within. There's the story, and I think many have heard it, the story in the Native American tradition where grandfather is talking with his grandson, and he's talking about these factors as if they were two wolves. And he says, there are two wolves they're fighting for your soul. And one of them is needy, greedy, and will make you suffer. And the other is centered in the good of the whole, and it will offer you freedom. And they're in a fight for your soul. It's a fight to the death. One or the other will win. And the child is very disturbed by this and says, grandfather, who's going to win? And the grandfather says, the one that you feed.
Mm-hmm.
The one that you feed. And so both
Beautiful.
of these are within us.
Do we have a choice, though? I mean, how do we, I'm thinking that I don't think I understood this for a long time in my life till I was later in life, but I was younger, but, it wasn't at the beginning of my life. It took many years, and maybe the same as you were saying, you got into trouble, or, not physical trouble, but trouble emotionally. There were situations in my life and nothing really bad, but it took a long time until I ended up at the meditation center. And I started to learn, someone started to show me that there was another way. I don't think I had found that other way. I had little bits and pieces of this way of the good, of service, helping others, but it was still more about my life, my family, my kid. And so I think that that's kind of what happened to you eventually, right? You ended up at a spiritual center.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And the spirit is within us. In fact, the guide and the resonance, we reach a point eventually where the life of living to get becomes very jarring. As we get older, we recognize one of two things. Either we get what we wanted and we discover that what we wanted is not really what we wanted, or we don't get it and we live a very frustrated life. Either way. Peace is said to be inside. And it also can be lived outside, but really to truly be peaceful outside, one has to discover the peace that's inside. And this peace inside, it is an inner journey. And this is really the work. As I share, I lived a very unpeaceful life and very much at odds with peace, as it were. And the discovery that we share from here is, it was here all along. It was here all along. So I didn't know better.
Right.
Am I forgiven? Yeah, of course I'm forgiven for the, I didn't know, but.
Right. You didn't know, you hadn't been given knowledge, but again, I think that you somehow, I don't know if you stumbled upon a place where you could begin to learn these things. Maybe it was read a book. Things happen to people that would you say they get a wake-up call?
Yes, I would say it's not stumbling, but it looked like it at the time.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that, what you got into. And I know it's a whole Indian way of teaching from out of India. And that really was what changed your life, right?
It's universal. It's universal. Yeah. Peace Pilgrim, as I said, very much American. She never went to India.
She didn't.
There is this inner urge. There is. And this is why we find ourselves dissatisfied. If it weren't here, we would be fine with being happy every now and then. But there's something within us that won't accept that, that knows that there is more. And so we may not be familiar with it, but we want to become familiar with it.
Do we yearn for it? Would you say to our souls, or we as souls, do we yearn for really true happiness and peace? And even though we're caught up and we can't exactly even articulate it sometimes, is that this inner drive to have that?
Yes, it is. No doubt we yearn for it. In fact, when we come into these deep depressions and thoughts of suicide and all that, these are so common. They've always been, but especially in today's society, so common. And why? Because still not being happy is not a satisfactory condition. Not being happy is not satisfactory. Not being full, being incomplete is non-satisfactory. So this urge exists, but what we need, that can come from the outside or it can come from inside, is we need some inspiration that helps us to realize there is more to this life than met the eye. That what we're looking for is actually inside, and that it's possible to find it, to find where it is, to receive some guidances, which again can come from inside or outside, that helps us to live our life in a way that we discover it and flourish in it, and blossom like the rose. Or the beautiful example is, until this, we're very much living the caterpillar life, but we can come into the chrysalis intentionally. It doesn't happen by accident, but intentionally, and learn the ways of peace, and learn within us how to make different choices that support this transformation into the butterfly, into the happy being that we had imagined and wanted to be.
I'm seeing butterfly right now, just a beautiful butterfly. And I actually have one in the other room. I wish I could show it to you. I look at it in a while, and a butterfly is just such a beautiful, would you say, creature? It's just beautiful. And isn't that what we really want to be? We want to be beautiful spiritually. We want to be loving. We want to be caring. So what would you say it takes? I mean, what I have gotten from you over having met you before and seen you walk for peace, or known about your walk for peace across the country, for 3 years, I think you did. And then some, just driving around the country, bringing peace to people, bringing this message that you're giving now is this message of peace. When people see you, and now you also are directing the Divine Grace Yoga Ashram, which is in Arizona. It's possibly going to be moving soon somewhere else. But when you give people the message of peace and they say, okay, I want it, I'm with you, what do you say they need to do next?
Make a choice. So what we do our best to do, and really all of what we call teachers in the different traditions have experienced the gift within themselves, and they live to share it now, having experienced it. And what we do our best to do is help people who are caught up in a state of suffering and are longing to get out of it. We do our best to help to experience that which is higher within themselves, to have an experience, to make a connection, to be able to relate to the connection and what they're connecting to. It's not about connecting to a name, but it's about connecting to what is higher within them, what is relatively much more real, what is lasting, what is peace, what is happiness, what is eternal life. To connect with it. And it is possible to connect. There are practices we can take that help us to connect. In simple ways, bringing peace into our lives and learning to serve, or to give instead of getting. So we do our best to help to have the experience of, to have some comprehension that it is within. I see it is within. And then offer some of the guidance on how we can, through lifestyle, how we can find it within ourselves, how it can blossom, and how we can merge with it, as it were.
It's a practice, isn't it? I mean, people have different practices. There's not one practice for everybody. But it's like exercise. You have to practice it a certain amount a week. You can't say, I want to be in shape. And, maybe once a year, go and exercise, is it? Or once a month. it's really a daily or weekly, more than daily even. I mean, it's more than weekly or monthly.
Yes,
Weekly, okay. I think if a person committed once a week, but just something that you do.
Yes.
That for peace, inner peace.
Yes, what's required is to know that it exists, what I'm seeking, that it exists, to have some experience with it, to make a choice about bringing it into our lives. And we can say peace about bringing it into our lives. And that comes through practice. There's a little 2-minute video on YouTube that I will always recommend, and I can visualize it. A boy in India, he's probably 7, 8, 9 years old, something like that. And he looks at us and he says, what do you practice? What do you practice? Because whatever you practice, you become very, very good at. He said, do you practice joy in your life? Do you practice happiness in your life? Or do you practice anger? Or do you practice judgment? And he says, if you practice anger, you'll become very, very good at it. You'll become so good at it that when you board the airplane, the person across the aisle will have a much better seat than you. And how could they have been given that better seat? How did they deserve that? And the one of the factors that's necessary for us to understand is whatever we imbibe in within our thought world, we are that. We experience that and we are that. So if we practice anger and someone does something and we practice getting angry, getting worked up about what they did, then we become more and more angry, and we experience anger everywhere. If we practice acceptance and forgiveness. Yes, and so the practice really ultimately is our life. It's about the choices that we make in the moments of our life. Things are always happening to us, and how do we choose to look at it? And there are aids, there are supports, there are meditation practices, mantras, all of these, many mystical aids, but the choice is what's most important.
And at every moment, I think I could say, well, yes, I practice peace, but then if like you're saying, if suddenly I go and I get upset with someone and then I justify it and I say, well, that person deserved it. They weren't nice to me, or they did something wrong to me. It's easy to justify our actions and almost exclude them from whatever it is we're trying to live. And so it's like you have to have the awareness of your behavior too, don't you?
You do. And here, there's a great mystery and a great power that we all have in our hands, which is the power of resolution, of resolve. If you make a resolve and it's firm, strong, I will not get angry at people for doing this, or this. Let's say, if you make the resolve that somehow, if you check it, you'll see, if you're serious about it, that you may lose it, you may get angry, but sometime after, you remember, I did not do what I wished to do. And so one who's committed resolves again. This is a practice. I will practice happiness. I will practice joy. I will practice forgiveness. And really intentionally doing so. Peace Pilgrim would say, focus on the little things. Don't try to make it so complex. Just do the little things that are good, that we're guided to, and do our best to refrain from the little things that are bad, that cause us to suffer and other people. There's a knife in this tongue, and it's so easy to say something that hurts, and those hurts last for a long, long time. And so just a little thing, hold that. And just like this, the little things that we're urged to do that are good, and avoiding the little things that we're urged to do that are not helpful. And we each have a compass that exists at some level where we can see, when I did this, it upset people. When I did this, people are happy with it. And
beautifully
so
said.
Things in life. This is where the practice is.
That's it. That makes it so much easier to me. The little things, and not feeling the guilt when you do go off or you make a mistake, and you just, okay, I did it, but let me move on. And it's all about progress, spiritual progress. Would you say, to say, okay, I'm not there yet, but I'm I'm on the path. That's what makes me feel good, is that, yeah, I mess up, but I keep going. I'm not, yes. I mess up, but I'm not giving up.
Yeah. When I started the physical pilgrimage, the physical walking across the country.
Describe it.
Lao Tzu's words came: a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the single step. And this is exactly the maxim that we're dealing with, is I'm going to be more peaceful. Very good. So let me just take a step. And I might take a step backwards. It's fine. Let me take another step and another step and another step. And this process of practicing peace in the life, inside and outside, moves us forward towards peace. It took years. And yet I knew where I wanted to go. I knew what I wished to embody. I knew that I had lived a life that was not beneficial, and I wished to live a beneficial life. I wished to embody peace and love. And so I never gave up. I never give up. It's very important.
Yeah.
And it's more important than anything else is to be in alignment with this. And I would just confirm that it exists, and that these transformations are not only possible, they're really what we came here to do.
So happy to hear this. And I know we're just about out of time, but what I'm really taking from you is that, you know, commit to peace. And you truly committed to peace with your peace walks, but not just your peace walks, but your whole way of living, which is about being peace, spreading the message of peace, giving peace. And it works. It really works. And you can live in a world, we can live in a world where, even though we see all the bad and we see the peacelessness and the hatred and everything, we can know that we're doing our small part, right? To bring peace to ourselves and to others. And would you say that's what transformation is all about? If we can even help the world, help society?
It is. And if we can become more peaceful, and this is speaking of inside, in our thoughts and our desires and our intentions, if we can become more peaceful, then we bring more peace into the world. The butterfly effect is real. Whatever we think or speak or do, it does make a difference. It does have an impact. We might think ourselves as a very small individual, and yet what we discover is that when we get caught up easily in anger and judgment and all of this, this is what we bring, it's what we share, and it's a contribution that we make. But also, when we learn the ways of peace and find ourselves to be able to be more peaceful, we also bring peace into the outer situation. This is our contribution, our gift. And the intention here really was to live life as a prayer, because the prayer, the inner becomes the outer.
It's obvious that you have really, really walked the walk, done the work, and really committed your life, you know, to helping yourself, bringing peace to your own life. And it's obvious, brought peace and fulfillment to so many others. And it's just very gratifying to meet you and hear you. And people I know can see you on YouTube, right? I found some classes on lots of classes that you have on YouTube. Yes. And you're going to also be in at the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center soon. Can you know the specifics?
The November Saturday, yes. It's only 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
And that is the meditation center in
Delray
Beach, right?
Yes.
Oh.
So you will be there. If anyone is interested, they can even call the Miami Brahma Kumaris Center and get the information.
Yeah,
and
3 p.m.
3 p.m. And I think they'll just be able to show up, but they can call the Miami Brahma Kumaris. I'm sure it'll be listed in our regular listings as well. And so I hope that people will be there to meet you and get some more enlightenment from you. It's a pleasure to get to see you again. Take care.
Very good to be with you, dear Meredith. Thank you for what you're doing here.
Thank you for watching. Om Shanti, everyone.